Hello there, thanks for stopping by. Welcome to Messing About with a Narrowboat. It's a short one this week because we're away on our hollybobs. And I'm just going to finish off the final bit of the below gunwale around the swim. Just needed scribing in and a bit of fettling in. And I'm going to start the template for the portholes cut out. When we put the lining up on the wall, I can have a template to make sure that the holes are always the same size. It's the end of another day. I didn't film it at all because I'm just putting more cladding on, putting sockets in, but that's it, all finished. That's the swim done. So I've cut the boards, put the top and bottom, and then scribed in a piece of ledging over the top. Done. Morning. Bit of a quiet day today. Yay, good bit of tidy up done. I've cleared one side, can't clear it all, but look at that, it's brilliant. Last bit before I go today is paint the scribed in parts for the swim. I've primed them already, they just need painted. It takes 4 hours to dry, so I'll do it and finish it off overnight. This has been the slowest part of the whole thing, just getting those edges sealed.
Bob the Builder, can we build it? Bob the Builder, yes we can! Scoop, Mark and Lofty and 2x2, Leo and Wendy join the crew. Bob and the team have so much fun and they get the job done! Yeah! Bob the Builder, can we fix it? Bob the Builder, yes we can!
With everything squared away now, it's time to think about the upper wall lining. And the hardest part of it is really just getting joins on the panels. The windows and the hatches and the battens, vertical battens, are not really helpful in putting up an 8x4 sheet of ply. They are not 8-foot centres. Even though I asked for it, they're not quite. So there's a little bit of, one bit will be 5 foot and the other bit will be 8 foot and that sort of stuff. And that's fine, it's just the way it is. It's only because we want any vertical join, I want it to be aesthetically nice. You could just slap them up and have a join any old way. It would certainly be a cheaper option. But the hardest, the real hard part is cutting out the portholes. And we've thought a lot about this. There's a ton of ways to do it, okay? Basic way is take the window out, draw a circle, cut round the circle with a jigsaw. You've got a hole. What's your problem? So our windows are bonded windows, so there's no screws, they don't come out. It's that simple. So the only way of kind of drawing a hole is taking the inner glass out, and yep, you can draw a hole. However, the hole isn't big enough. That one-handed, because you've still got the lip there. So yeah, draw a hole and you could measure round and add a bit more. But it becomes further complicated. Well, for me it does. It becomes further complicated because we need to consider the window surround, the window lining. And I've seen so many different ways of doing it that ultimately, yep, cut a hole out, whatever way, how you measure it, cut a hole with a jigsaw. Jigsaw circle holes are untidy at best and absolutely appalling at worst. I could even make a bit of a jig. I could make a piece of wood that size with the hole dead center, and when I put the lining up, I've got a dead center hole I can tap through, and then that gives me a way of drawing the circle. Or I could make a jig basically the same size as the frame there, which would always give me a known center point, and I can work it out that way. Except that none of those frames are the same size, so making a jig like that is a bit pointless. So yeah, you know, the window, the portholes are 18 inches, so add a little bit more on for the window liner. So window liners come in various styles. The wood ones have got about a 15mm lipping in them, or you could get fiberglass ones which are thinner, so you don't need as much lipping. I haven't found a nice fiberglass one yet though. There are advantages to fiberglass. It doesn't stain, it doesn't rot. Some of the wooden ones look pretty good, plastic wood, but as I said, they're not quite there yet. If we were just having, say, black as a colour or white, you know, just a plain painted style window liner, yeah, go for it. Go for the fiberglass. It's about a third of the price of the wooden ones. And of course, you could make your own. Well, you could, I probably couldn't. The way they do them is they make 8-sided hexagon thing, and then route around the corners and make a nice shape, and then put a lip on top of it. It takes ages. We've got 8 to do. It would probably take me about 8 months. Although I've seen it done. There was a vlogger called Making a Narrowboat with Nanny and Grandad, and he made his own porthole liners, and absolutely stunning job. Amazing. And I was watching it thinking, nah, I don't know if I've got the skill for that, to be honest. So I think, yep, 18-inch hole, but then how much space do we need to do? So fiberglass ones like that, or wooden ones, which I think we prefer, but it's nearly £2,000 for the porthole liners, and that's an awful lot of money. Yeah, but they do look nice. So having looked at the research, you know, 15mm lipping on the wooden ones, it gives us a bit of a choice. So what I'll do is I'll make a jig, and I'll cut a hole in it, which is the 18 inches plus 15mm, and I'll use the router. I'll show you doing that, but I'll use a router and cut round the jig, and I've got a nice smooth hole. I don't trust myself with a jigsaw. So that's what we're going to do. So something like this. Put the lining up, position a jig to the hole, and then cut it out with the router. That'll be alright, that. And I've had a little brainwave on how to get the circle that I cut out to line up to the window. So if I look at the window frame, there's a bit of lip. So I can work out, well, I can see it, the exact center point of that. So if I draw a center line on my jig and a center line there, take this window out, when I put it up, mark the center line, and then I've got a datum to work with. Now, let's go and make a template. So I've got a piece of MDF, 12mm. I could have used ply. I've got a spare bit of ply, but it's a bit bent. It's that cheaper Eastern, Far Eastern ply. So, just marking out, plus this is square. Just marking out the full length of the lining. And it's MDF, so PPE, that mask on. I was going to cut it outside, but it's just started raining. conventional method of drawing a circle is create a pivot point and draw around that. So get my centre point, which is blunt pencil. And the same on the other side. Now, I know the radius, the diameter of the cutout I want is 47. Let's call it 48 for easier math. So half that for the radius is 24. So I need to be 24 centimetres, 240 mil down, which is there. Mark, using my set square, the exact same centre point. That was wrong. Measure from the centre point, not from the top of the wood. Isn't that typical? Rushing it. There we are. Right. Can I get my pencil in that hole? So I've marked out a cross hatching on my board. Mark the centre point, screw in, into my centre point, just lightly screw it down, nothing. Right, so that turns. Okay, and then normally what you would do is you put your pencil in. There you go, you can draw a circle. If you've left enough room on your board to turn it round. There you are. One circle. And normally you just cut that out with your jigsaw, but as I said, my jigsaw cuts are, well, crap, really. So I'm going to try a router. So I'm going to see if I can make a router jig along the same principle. So I'll create a bit of wood, fit my router to it, and I'll let the router cut it out. Right, so I've never made one of these before, so I'm kind of figuring it out. So I've got a piece of scrap wood at 9mm, and I've taken the base of my router. So I've drawn a line down the centre of my scrap wood, and I've put the base on, and I've marked the holes, and I've checked the distance and made sure it's all even all the way up. So I know that this is so I've now got a straight edge. So I'm going to drill out the holes. It's important they're countersunk. To match the base plate of the router. Yep. Good. So it's quite important that you get them countersunk so that the the heads are below the surface and they don't snag. We fasten them to the router. Hopefully they're all in the right place. Yeah, look at that. And for some bizarre reason, even though I took 4 screws out, I'm missing one. Yeah. So now I need to get the center point of that so that I know where my cutting element is. So the only thing I can think of to keep it absolutely true is if I use a straight cutter and I plunge it in and I make a hole. Let's see if that works. So that there, I know, is the center hole of this jig. So what I need to do now, I guess, is, actually I'll take the battery out just in case. Yeah. So now I need to find my radius point from there so that I can put my pivot point. So if I plunge that down, I know that my radius is 240 mil, which is there. So that's my pivot point. Triple check. And I've taken it from the outside of the cut of the blade, thinking about, yeah, it'll cut like that. So that's what I want, the pivot point. 240 mil, let's drill a wee hole in there. So it looks about right, but I can't really see. What I'd like to do is see that line going round. So I think I'll make that hole bigger, and then that gives me some visual reference. So to do that, I have to take the template off again. Now, this is okay, given that I've never made one of these before. Some of it's a bit guess. So I'm just going to use the hole cutter. It's 28 mil that I used for the 12 volt sockets. Yeah, that's better. Now I can see. So all back together, I've put the pivot point in, and the principle is the same. That's going to be quite good. However, it's not as 5 mil out. That pivot point is 5 mil out. So it was worthwhile drawing the circle just to get the measurement. So I'm going to have to move that a little bit. Worry is that's going to widen the hole. Right, that's a wee bit better. So we do another hole and it swings round. I'm really happy with that. Let's go and cut a hole.
Will make us blind. Like a ghost.
Well, shiver me timbers and rattle me bones. That actually worked. Good grief. It actually worked. And I have a hole! Yay! Well, that's awesome. Right, tidy up a wee bit. Right, so let's see if that worked. It looks a bit big. If I have to be honest, it looks a bit big. Yeah, it looks a bit big. The principle's right, but why is it so big? Let me measure it. Right, odd. That's the right size. And that's 10 centimeters too big. Hang on. Have I measured it from the wrong point? Oh no, because that's not 10 centimetres. Why is that 10 centimetres too big? That's the right measurement. The blade is on. I think I probably need to measure it. Maybe I didn't measure it from, Not taking into account the whole size of that. Even at that though, it's odd that it's 10 centimetres out. Because that measures correctly. That absolutely measures correctly. And then when I put the plunge on it, it measured right. You could see the blade was on the inside of the line. I don't know why that's come out. I really don't know. Combination of the, maybe I moved that down too far. It's still not, I don't know. A centimetre too big. That's a fair chunk. You know, that's that too much. So instead of it being 15 mil, it's now 25 mil. So it's an inch really out. I have no idea why that's like that. Taking into account the blade size, I've moved the blade to the inner of the line. So it should only be cutting up to the line. That's weird. That's weird. Don't understand that. Well, that's got me stumped. Any ideas? This is the first time making a jig for a router. The principle's right, I just don't know what's going on with the measurements, so I'm going to have to redo that, annoyingly. Ugh, it's MDF, it's pretty cheap stuff. I'd rather get it right. So why am I doing this? My idea is to use a trim cutter on the router. So using the template as a guide, plunge the router in and have it run round and trim the outer layer of the ply lining. So I don't need to worry about measuring, although given I can't measure anyway, definitely can't measure. But anyway, so that's the idea, is I'll put the trim router in, the trim bit, let it run round the guide rail, and it will cut out. So I don't need to measure every single time. Well, the principle's sound. It worked. It's just for some reason it was a centimetre out. I don't know why. Everything measures out okay. Maybe, I don't know. Haven't a bloody clue. Anyway, so I'm away to buy another sheet of MDF. Thank goodness it's pretty cheap. But you can see why I wanted to make a jig. I think the principle is right. It will work okay. I'd rather muck around with a piece of MDF than to ruin a very expensive bit of ply. But yeah, I'm pretty happy with that. For the first time ever doing a jig on a router, took some thinking, I have to confess. I was looking at it going, huh? How the heck do you do that? And then I figured out how to fasten things to the base of the router. Once I figured that out, it was like, got it, understand. Good job though, I'm pretty pleased. So that's it, just a short one, and as I said in the last episode, we'll see you in a couple of weeks.